Hi, welcome to Ketobiography. I'm your host, Robin Dobbins. Today's guest is a wellness coach, certified personal trainer, and metabolic health practitioner who is living proof that small steps lead to big transformations. After facing Parkinson's, rheumatoid arthritis, and a stroke, she went from barely walking with a cane to deadlifting 135 pounds and is now training for the 500-mile Camino de Santiago. She's also a returning guest, having first joined us on Less of Me Success Stories back in September of 2024. And just so you know, it is now 2026, so that was 2 years ago.
Wow.
Please welcome Mimi Morgan to Ketobiography. Hello and welcome back.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Oh, this has been a
Appreciate it.
long
Yeah,
time
good.
coming.
Yeah, it has been. Wow, 2024. It's hard to believe.
I know, right? It seems like it was just yesterday, but then also like so much has happened. It seems like it was years and years and years ago. So,
Yeah.
as I said when we were before starting recording, is that people can find you. They can search Mimi Morgan. You've told your story on a lot of different podcasts at this point, and I would like an update or a refresher. But I'm just really honestly, I'm so proud to see and just so happy to see what you've accomplished in the 2 years since we first kind of met and started talking to each other. So I really would like to have a complete and full total update on the life of Mimi Morgan. So I'm just going to turn it over to you to just share all the things.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been incredible 2 years. Every day I wake up and it's like, wow, this is just a miracle. I'm here. So just for people that haven't, my story's been out there. I'll give the 5-minute Cliff Note version. It was pretty horrific. And every time I thought it was really bad, it would turn around and get worse. But in a short period of time, within a 5-year span, diagnosed and treated for a Dupuytren's contracture, which is I get a lot of people that reach out to me about that. You go to any hand surgeon, like I did in the treatment is they wait. You get nodules on your hand and you lose the use of your hand. I'm an artist and I hit my right hand. And I found another alternative treatment, which is radiation therapy. And interesting, I work with a lot of people with Parkinson's, and here some have Dupuytren's and are getting this treatment. But started with that after a fall and a few surgeries for the break, soft tissue and hard bone. And then while I was being treated for the Dupuytren's, the doctor noticed something was wrong with me, and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Full course of the drugs, which run about $50,000 for those, and really expensive. The injection once a week, runs $5,000 a month, 4,800, 4,500. I just think it's up then. And then 2 years to the month, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Progressed pretty quickly. Had a lot of autonomic symptoms and was slated as being a multiple system atrophy suspect, which is a Parkinson's plus. You have similar Parkinson's symptoms, but then autonomic, which is what multiple system affects. And you're given that sort of skeptical diagnosis to the 5-year point. And there's 4 Parkinson's plus symptoms. After the 5 years, you're either designated that or released. Thankfully, I was released because the outcome is about 2 years, maybe 3 years living after that 5-year. It hits you pretty hard. But I'm on a 1,200 plus milligrams of Parkinson medication. I'm legally disabled, which went in effect permanently at age 66. And I had to stop working. I had cognitive dysfunction. I'm a math minor, really, I should have been a math major, really good at math. And now I can't do 2 and 3 digit subtraction and division. I'm using a cane. I'm having trouble walking. And then I had to quit work. And about 6 months after that, actually on one of the best days I had in years, I'd walked 4 miles. It was an accident and I lost the earbud at the 1 mile mark, which meant that in order to go back and get it, now come home, I've completed 4 miles. And it was, pretty exciting that I could do that. Sat on a bench and had a medium-sized stroke. And so that was devastating. I was released from the hospital, but the most devastating part of the whole story, just when I think, oh, it can't get bad enough, was the IV that was administered during the stroke was tainted with a deadly bacteria. And I was released from the stroke after 3 days, actually in pretty good shape from it, and ended up back 24 hours later with this deadly bacteria. It took a while for them to even think to go look for what was wrong. I have so many things wrong with me at this time. I'm not moving, and that, they're just thinking because I'm not moving is why I'm screaming with back pain. Well, I had an infection. Was released with a PICC line, which is a tube into your chest with antibiotics. And unfortunately, the antibiotics that weren't working in the hospital for a couple of days, they put me on a new one. I'm getting recovery, but in 11 days when they sent me home with an antibiotic that wasn't working. And without any sort of follow-up other than come see us in 30 days, we'll take the PICC line out. And about 2.5 weeks, I went to go take a step and I couldn't. And now at this point, I'm using a walker. So it's gotten worse. And I ended back in with, they deemed it was MRSA, which goes either your heart, your lungs, or your spine. Mine went to the spine. It's now in my spinal canal. It's in my psoas muscle. And anybody who does any kind of training, you need your psoas muscle to walk. Had discitis, osteomyelitis, which meant it destroyed L2, L3, and some of L4. And now I'm becoming sepsis. Nobody wants to operate. I finally had surgery in the middle of the night because they said I wasn't going to survive unless I had surgical debridement, and which is where they open you up and hose you down with antibiotics. Because already now this is allowed to seed. And when it seeds, it encapsulates. So, that now became the worst thing that happened to me. Everything else sort of was secondary. And I was in the hospital for a couple months and then rehab, lost all my white blood cells at one point, had a TI in front of the doctor. I mean, there was a lot of things that were going wrong. I wasn't responding to the medication. Finally, the last antibiotic started that they sent me. I went to rehab to, learn to walk again. I lived in a place that had 27 stairs and I never went back because they said I'd never be able to walk 5. And I went to go live with my daughter and son-in-law, and it was not a pretty rough, it was a miserable patch. I really had lost all hope. I could barely move. I had to now sit to shower. I had every device you could think of. It took me luckily I had an iron bed. It took me 5-10 minutes sometimes to roll over. Walking from one end of the house was a monumental chore. And it just kept getting worse. And now I'm on antibiotics for life because I was given less than a 50% chance of surviving the next 18 months. When it's allowed to seed, it encapsulates and it waits. I still have it in my body. I've had a couple reoccurrences. They've been minor, but it still waits for an opportune time to come back when it's allowed to have that much time, which it did. And then, of course, the antibiotic fails just make it even worse. Now I've just got a handful of antibiotics that I can use should it really come back. And I had given up hope. And, was really like, what was the point at this? I'm on 13 plus medications. Everything's getting worse. Every week is worse. I'm 67 at this time, and the future is looking bleak. My family's thinking about putting me in a home soon, and I'm thinking I'm not going to even live long enough to get in a home. And then here I am.
Yeah.
It just, every day it just blows my mind. And my family's too. I just was down visiting for Mother's Day. And every time I see them, they just say, how is this possible?
Well, how is it possible?
No, well, it's a combination of a lot of things. So definitely 100% divine intervention. I have absolutely no doubt. I had my mailbox moment which I've shared. And, you know, there's so many layers to my Mailbox Moment. You know, I'm an accomplished athlete, was ranked #1 in the United States at my heyday, being an equestrian, actually in 2 divisions. I've carried 65 pounds, walking for 10 days in the mountains in Montana. Kayaking, you know, I used to bike 125 miles a week, run 5 miles a day. I mean, I'm used to the grind. I'm used to being active. And now I can barely move and I need aid. And then the pain level was a good solid 7. I mean, I had back spasms relentless all day. And that, you know, when you're in pain like that and then you can't do things, it does something to you. It gnaws at you. And it was pretty unbearable. But I walked to this, you know, God seems to work in my way in the most ordinary moments. And I like surrounding myself with pretty and nice things. And it was the ugliest mailbox you could find on the street. And I stopped. I'd get sometimes a little past the mailbox. And, you know, then I would be like maybe laid up in bed for a week. I couldn't move. The spasms were relentless. And I just stopped at this mailbox and I just can't do this anymore. I have nothing left. And I just paused for a second and I turned around to literally, I had made the decision at that moment to turn around and just give up. I was going to give into it. I was no longer going to care. That was it. I was on my way to dying and I wasn't going to live another 6 months. I wasn't going to do anything, but I was just going to let go. And when you get to that place where you just are going to let go and not care, then I think it happens pretty quick. And I already was in a downhill spiral. Nobody predicted I was going to live long anyway. And so I turn around in absolute defeat. I'm giving up, and then I hear this voice, and it was, so how many steps do you have? And I paused for a second. It's not the first time I've had an encounter, my 5th time actually. And, you know, I answered 10 steps. I have 10 steps after I scan my body. And I almost was a little flippant, like, what is 10 steps going to do? I mean, you know, I used to bike 125 miles a week. 10 steps 10 steps is not getting me from this side of this room to this other. So I knew it was like, okay, 10 steps, really? And then I heard, go take them. So I did. I took the 10 steps. I walked home, gave it really no thought. There was no weight to it. Went about my day, which was pretty bleak. Went out the next day. Got to the mailbox, decided to walk the 10 steps that I had walked. And I stopped and well, can you do 10 more today? And I kept doing them. Every day I would get to that new place and I would just do 10 steps, which was hard for me because, you know, I'm the type like, okay, I've done 10 steps 5 times. Let's go for 2 miles. And then I would fail and then I would be in defeat. And it's like, you know, I don't have any, they were the most difficult, the most painful 10 steps. And I took them. And what happened from that was I started to change. Just by the act of doing them, I believe now. It took me a long place to see and understand really what transpired because it was pretty, in a way, you know, was no burning bush, no bright thing. It was like a mailbox and 10 steps. But the act of taking 10 more steps was, I'm worth 10 more steps. And that was all I could do. And that was all I had in me, but I was worth those 10 steps. And so I'm going to take them. I had no expectations. I had no nothing. I just took them. I mean, I was pretty flat. It was a really dark period. Now, people ask, well, were you depressed? And I've had depression before, and I say this not to minimize it, but I didn't have enough energy to be depressed. I was past that point. I was flat. There was nothing there. I stopped looking in mirrors. If I caught a reflection, I was almost like in shock that was me. and I turned away. I mean, I just put my head down and did what little I could get away with. But I kept doing those. And then soon after, I came across somebody who proposed that I go on a low-carb diet, which was 25 protein, 25 carbs, 50% fat. Now, 50% fat was probably more fat than I had in 5 years, and that's what I was supposed to eat in a day. And I didn't eat protein, a fistful, because anybody who knows anything about Parkinson's, you're told don't eat protein because it competes with the medication. And I literally told him you're nuts. And we had talked about an hour and a half, and he said, well, you're going to trust me because you're one sick lady. And at this point, I didn't have anything to lose. And I knew if I went back, I had a team of 10 doctors. If I went back to another doctor, I was getting another medication, which is what was happening to me. And now I'm getting medications because I'm taking another medication. And now I'm getting sicker from medications. I had a lot of sleep disturbances with Parkinson's. And so I'm on, sleep aids. I had severe insomnia. I mean, it was just really an endless. I think the list of the illnesses secondary to the major was like this. I mean, it's a whole full legal note page full. It's pretty crazy. And so, first I saw him every week, and I don't know what was, I didn't know what, I try to think back, okay, so what ran through my mind? How did I get there? And I still have not unearthed it. And I'm busy writing a book, and I'm unearthing and discovering things as I'm writing. I haven't figured this part out, but I hung in there for the first 6 months with the only hope was as I wasn't feeling worse. So many people are like, well, okay, I've done it for 30 days and nothing's working. Well, I wasn't worse for 6 months. And that was probably about the brightest light I had seen in years. And what made me hold on to it, I don't know. But I'm grateful that I did. Because then around the 9-month mark, as I'm changing my diet, as I'm learning to track my macros, which is absolute key to understand, because I had no clue. I mean, for somebody who doesn't eat fat, all of a sudden it's like, I want you to eat 50% fat. Well, what does that even look like? Like, how is that even humanly possible? Well, I was getting to 80% fat around the 9-month mark. And that's where I noticed I didn't need my Parkinson meds every 3.5 hours. Now, I would wake up early in the morning. I would take my first dose, usually by 6, every 3.5 hours until my last dose at 9:30. And I'd often have to take a dose in the middle of the night to get me through the night. And you could put me in a dark room without a phone, and I could tell you when 3.5 hours was up to the second, because I was coming off and I had a lot of off symptoms. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not like, and I'd have my pills lined up ready for me. So that next dose was ready. And now it's like 3.5 hours and I'm not lining them up. And that's when the light bulb went off. And that's where I understood, okay, food has something to do with this. And I just ran with it. And I was 1001% compliant because I was too scared of going back. And this was like, I'm still not moving much more than the 10 steps. I'm adding 10 more steps. So I am getting somewhere. I'm still using aid. In fact, up to 5 years ago, I used aid. Up to 5 years ago, I could only walk where I live right now. The goal was the half-a-mile track. And I look at the bridge that I walk. And sometimes I walk 18 miles as I'm training to do the Camino. And that was like, maybe I can drive over it one day because I stayed really close to home. But I just stayed with it. And I just kept getting better and better. And eventually, and it took 1.5 years before I even entertained the thought, as my symptoms are improving, well, then I don't need this medication. And I'm not recommending anybody else, but I wasn't getting help from many of my doctors. They're like, you're going to die. You're going to fail. You just have to take this. This is just your lot. This is where you are. And I knew something was shifting in me. And then, of course, my mind shifted, and then gratitude shifted. Gratitude's powerful. Now instead of bemoaning, I started to, the sun rose and I woke up. That was like the greatest thing. And then I got to go to bed at night. Maybe my pain got dropped down to 5, which was really great. And then I started to learn to just be grateful. This is a pretty rough day, and I'm grateful I'm here that I can feel it, because I was at one point dead and I couldn't feel anything. So I started to embrace suffering. And I just, walked my way through it and ate my way through it. And I haven't stopped. I've just kept going. And if you would have, and it's a good thing, because if you would have given me a magic wand, I was like, okay, can I walk a half a mile or a mile, maybe go to a park with my grandkids, or, travel and make it to an outlook. Not even without an egg could I make it to an outlook. I have a few pictures, and I have a picture where I'm holding onto the railing. I have the cane and I'm holding on to my daughter. I've got the railing and cane. I'm holding on to my daughter for dear life while we stand and take a picture, and it took everything to get to the outlook. And I would have been happy if I could have gotten to the outlook without holding on to someone for dear life, not being in excruciating pain. I would have never set the bar as high as it is for me now.
This is your 5-minute synopsis is like 15 minutes, and that's okay, because I
know I go down this. I try this like
well, you had sent me in that first time that you came on, you sent me that laundry list of diagnoses, and I don't think you could get through it in 5 minutes. So I'm glad that you took the longer way around to get there, because there's just so much there. And being kind of adjacent and watching all of this happening kind of in real time, when you start posting on X about the things that you're going through, and how that's healing in real time over the course of the past couple of years, it just is so just inspiring to hear it out of your mouth again, to know, because I'm looking at you, I know what you're doing now, and I can see that so much change has happened, and you've become quite a vocal advocate, which is, it's an important piece here. So you've talked about some things that were pivotal. One, losing all hope. That's a pivotal place to be in, because you've got a choice to just keep going down that path of kind of depth beyond depression, as you described, or when you get to your just 10 more steps moment, I've got a little bit. My bar's not high. It's a realistic view of who I am today. I'm not going to try to overachieve. I'm going to be exactly who I am right now and just persevere to this new place where you are, that you can raise the bar higher, that you've done the work, and you've pushed yourself beyond those 10 sets, and you've made these goals for yourself, which just a few years ago never would thought possible. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's heartwarming to see that this is possible. I have no questions. I'm just saying random stuff. No, I do have questions. One thing I want to ask, just to clarify, is how long ago were you kind of diagnosed with the Parkinson's, and then which was worse in that time frame? Was it the Parkinson's itself, or the infection on top of it that made it even that much worse? And then how long ago was your 10 steps moment? So that was 3 in 1.
Moment was a little over 5 years ago. 5 years ago. So not that long ago. Mm-hmm. And my stroke was, I'm going to be 72. My stroke was at 65. In February, and it was the 10-step moment was a good solid year and a half. I had a year plus of physical therapy 3 times a week. So it wasn't like I wasn't going. It just wasn't happening. And my Parkinson's diagnosis was around 61. My RA diagnosis was in 59. So the infection So when I had Parkinson's, that seemed like the absolute worst thing in the world, and it became like a bad toothache compared to the MRSA. Because now I've got, I have an abscess in my spinal canal that took over 6 months for the antibiotics to kill. If that burst, I was dead immediately. I've got damaged psoas because I was all infected. So now I'm experiencing pain beyond anything from RA. Now I'm at level 7, and I have a high pain tolerance. So level 7 is probably closer to 9 for a lot of people. And now I have another curve in my spine and damaged vertebrae that self-fuse. I can never have surgery. It's always a risk of infection. So I had a self-fuse. So now I have a little scoliosis. Now I got another curve. And, the threat of the MRSA, it was huge. And so having that looming over your head and then the constant pain and reminder was pretty tough. And that was so, and, I moved here actually 5 years ago, and I moved in here with a closet full of canes. So I've only been off of medication to be 3 years.
Off of the Parkinson's.
Yeah, off of all medication. Yes, all. And Parkinson's medication was one of my last. I really, the heartburn meds are the first to go because, you're not having heartburn. So why do I need to take heartburn meds? The last medication was the antibiotics. So I was on double dose twice a day, the strongest antibiotics for bone infections, and was told I would need to be on it for life. I was on it for 3.5 years, and against doctor's orders, I went off of it. And that's 3 years. That was the very last medication. Because they all said I was going to die. I was going to come back in 30 days. And it has come back a couple times. I had surgical debridement on a finger. It hasn't come back in my spine. It manifests elsewhere. So I'm very, very mindful. I kind of know. So when so I can push, and I still do because that's who I am. But I have to give myself recovery. So I've learned to do that. When I don't, so I've learned to listen to my body through all this. And when I don't, a respiratory infection comes. That's my weak spot from a life of asthma. And so I'm off of asthma medication. I've been on asthma medication every day of my life for 68 years. And I got off of that 2-3 years ago. Actually, the doctor took me off of that, but before that was the antibiotics. And when I get a respiratory infection, when I get run down, that's when the MRSA's like, okay, now we got her. She's too busy fighting a cold. She's too busy recovering. So because it encapsulates, now I'm going to come out, and now I'm going to do my thing. And I still have hopes of healing that. And I still have a damaged psoas, so walking's can be challenging, anywhere from 3 to 18 miles. And when I stop, it shortens, and I just can't take a step. Just like when I had the infection and was rushed to the hospital. I'm locked up, and that leg is not coming out. And so I still have issues with it. I still believe I can heal. But the fact that I can even entertain doing what I'm doing, and I'm physically fit as I am, I just keep plugging away.
Yeah, you said the word believe. You've said the word hope, and that you lost hope, and now you have belief that you can. And that is just such a complete and total mind shift. You're being told by your doctors that you aren't going to live any longer than 6 months from now. And now you have this belief, and it's really that it clearly is where the change happens. So, this is where I kind of want to move into what's going on now with you. This is like a 2-year update, and in the past 2 years, so much has changed. You've done a bunch of training, right? You've training, physical training, and then you're walking and all that stuff. Like personally, you've been doing physical training, but also you've been training so that you can help others. So you've taken what you've gathered for yourself and really change that energy to help other people. So I want to get into that because what you have built, I've been on your website. It's just 10 steps is the
Just 10 steps.
just 10 steps is the
Just 10
website.
more. I should
I
really know
know
this.
I
I
should know if
know.
it's just 10 or if it's just 10
Just 10.
more. Just
Wait,
10 as in the
10,
number 10, just
just
1
10. Yeah,
0.
I mean, I should really know this. One
We'll write
second.
it down
Oh,
in
this is
the
like
in the notes.
embarrassing. I know it by heart because you asked. Just 10 more steps.
Yeah. So go to the, you're building something here. You're building, and hopefully that, I saw it, you were kind of advertising some of the groups that you had going on in the past month, and every time I see it, I repost it because I know that you're doing great things, amazing things, and helping people. So I hope all of your classes that you have available are 100% full. But I'd love for you to tell me about that process.
Yeah.
What made you decide to
Yeah.
start the trainings you did and where you are now?
I will. I'm going to just back up one because I changed my diet. I changed how I moved. I aligned myself to the sun. I did this, I did that, which are all actions. I would not be where I am today if I didn't flip my head 180%. So that's really important, and you touched on that. I don't think the same way. I don't believe the same way. My faith is the strongest it's ever been. But if I hadn't had that mental shift, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Oh, I hear. I want to. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I want to touch on that too. So you can answer any of this in any order that you want to. But the foundational. What is foundational for you, and then what are the things that just help build on that foundation? And I have to assume that really most of that is faith-based now, but perhaps it wasn't at the time.
No, it started with, as I started to get better, I started to realize, which then led to, reuniting with my faith, and making it deeper, is that we are absolutely blessed, each one of us, with a human body with the ability to heal that is beyond what we can comprehend. Absolutely, because you don't move through what I moved through without realizing that. Because I'm not 50, I'm not 40, I'm not 30, I'm not 50, I'm not even 60. I'm going to be 72. And at the early 60s, as I'm getting sick, I'm hearing, it's your lot. It just happened to you a few years sooner than it happens to most of us. Everybody's on this medications. Welcome to the club. Yes, your body's going to fail. And I'm here to say that our natural healthy state, and I believe it will be into your 90s, and God willing, I will live that long. I lost a decade. I want it back. I have some good longevity. That our natural state is to be healthy and not to be on medication. And that our bodies are able to heal. Medicine has its place. It saved my life. I know that it saved my life many times, but medicine doesn't heal. That ultimately lies with us and what choices we make. And I had to really grasp that I am responsible, that I had to make choices. And that includes the choices of my thoughts, the choices of how I started to view things, my perception. It doesn't take, I started to build neuroplasticity. It takes just as much effort to have a brain full of lousy, rotten thoughts as it is through good. And your body's going to respond to that. And I had to really realize, and I think that that's part of my 10 steps. That was probably the most grace-filled, kindest thing I'd done in my body, was to say, you're worth 10 steps today. And it doesn't take much to signal it. And I always tell people, find your 10 steps. I don't care. I'll hear from people, well, I need a walker. I'm totally dependent. I'm like, okay, take one step. Can you take one? Then take it. Meet yourself where you are. and which is very humbling. It was really humbling for me as an athlete to be reduced to that. But I had to shift that mind, which was really important. And I keep working on it. But yeah, the first part was believing that my body could heal. And then from there, develop my faith as I started to see, I didn't sleep, and now I was starting to sleep, which was a miracle. Sometimes I'd be up three days just pacing. I had dystonia. I had night terrors, which are horrendous because you act them out. I had severe restless leg syndrome. Every couple seconds my legs are jerking. I mean, try sleeping when that's happening. I had severe insomnia. And so, you become haunted even thinking about sleeping. And I started to recover and sleep. And it's like, you just have to make, and what I was doing wasn't working. And it wasn't even a lousy eater. I ate organic, I ate a lot of vegetables, but I wasn't eating fat. I wasn't eating protein. I was depriving my body of nutrients, and I just needed more. And it wasn't until I changed that and started, running on ketones. And then it was easy because I just like, okay, I can make a choice, and the choice is going to hurt me or it's going to help me, which choice I'm going to make. Then it became easy to make the right choices.
Yeah, you start getting you start feeling the results, and then it just starts self-perpetuating after a while.
Do. But when it's not working, I know the choice then to just keep going with something else, and ride through it. Because I do think there's a period where you're not seeing anything, you're in the dark, and I was pretty blind. Wasn't like I had somebody leading my way, which brings me to your question that so now what I do is I help try to lead the way for people, and to find a place of healing, and I'm getting really excellent results, and they're experiencing it. But it's that hard part where, okay, I'm not feeling it, I'm not seeing it. It's like, okay, we got to keep going, because I do think it takes time for the body to catch up. It takes time to heal. I didn't get sick overnight, so I'm not going to get well overnight. And I in many ways, I'm still healing. But so I was really skinny and frail. I had no muscle, and I started weight training, and I love it. And started adding to my walking. And then last year, it's really funny how it works out. I always talk about my trainer. I called her the boss, and she got me far, and I adore her. But we had a real clash. I want to build muscle, and she's one of these old school build aerobics. And it's like, no, I want to lift weights. And I know you lift weights. And you know what? There's a difference,
Oh, yeah.
And I'll go out and hit the pavement, and I'll do my aerobics and my intervals. But when I'm in the gym, I want to lift heavy. And we had a clash. And I was like, okay, I'm taking a class. I'm going to learn how to do this. And when I realized, well, I already know how to do this, not that I didn't learn a lot, but it really empowered me. And then, people started reaching out, and a lot of them, Parkinson's, are like, I've been praying. I had somebody who prayed for a year and a half that I would do this. I'm like, really? I wasn't even thinking of doing this. And you're praying for this? And then I started to take some more, and then I thought, and doors just opened up for me. And I just kept studying, and I built a website. I still couldn't FaceTime. If you asked me to FaceTime you, I couldn't FaceTime you, save my life. I started building a website, and I just, it fell into place. And I had to get over the hurdle, because I had really cognitive issues. So part of my hurdle was, can I even comprehend this? Can I even pass these tests? I mean, there's a lot of tests. Can I retain this information? I had a real fear that I couldn't, because, I had gotten to the point where I had to give up putting together a Thanksgiving meal that, I had made for 50 years, because I couldn't even do it with note cards and notes. I couldn't process all that information. I really was losing my ability. And it's been, well, yes, I can do it. Yes, my mind's restored. Yes, I don't have issues. I can retain the information. I know it. And so the gates were flooded working with people with Parkinson's. And I just started to lead that. I mean, the only way I really knew was to try to lead people the way I was, which is, we're going to meet you where you are. And everybody's at a different place. Everybody has strength, and most people, I have some that are finding amazing healing on low carb. They still are in ketosis, but they're able to at a low carb place, certainly not 25%. And, I have some ketosis, some that I've had to bring to carnivore, because variety can be your enemy. And it's, that's probably the hardest challenge is the shift in the food, along with exercise, including PWR moves, which is specific, building neuroplasticity, changing their thoughts, getting them to really, and as they start to recover, they start to find a glimmer of hope. And maybe for some, it's 3 hours where they're, I didn't feel like I had Parkinson's for 3 hours. And that might be really small to somebody, but for somebody with Parkinson's, that's huge. Parkinson's doesn't affect the same two people the same way. And some symptoms can be more debilitating than others. But what it does is it chips at every aspect of your body, including your digestion, your bladder, the way you think, the way you move, the stiffness, the slowness, and your world gets smaller. And everything that you do in your day that you don't even think about is what is attacked with Parkinson's. That's why you can see videos of people who literally can't take a step without freezing, which is that shuffling movement, but they can dance because the other part of the brain takes over. And, I used to wear pull-on pants and oversized button shirts because buttons had become my enemy. I love to knit, and I can maybe knit a few stitches and my hands would cramp up. So everything becomes labored that you do, getting dressed, brushing your teeth, especially if you have tremors. So it's pretty hard. And so when you can get to a place where, you're getting relief for a few hours, or your meds are work. I mean, doctors don't even talk to, I have yet to work with one person where their doctor explained, their doctors just say, don't eat protein, which is what I heard, instead of timing your protein with your medication. Try to move. Well, you've got to have pretty close to an hour of intense exercise every day to even build neuroplasticity and better. And I have some people that are doing remarkable. And the ones that just, as with everything, the ones that are just like, I don't have anything to lose, I'm going all in, are the ones that seem to move the needle the best.
Yeah, I can see that happening for sure. It makes sense. You've been through it. All of these other people, all of the people that you work with have been through it. They've been told they don't have any hope, that they're not going to do it, and you're offering a different solution. And we need more of those out there. So you said you had somebody praying for you. I don't know that I was praying for you, but when I saw that you had done this, it just made me so happy, because I knew that you have a community of people to serve, and that you are going to serve them with your whole heart and your whole being. And so that was when I was like, I've got to talk to Mimi again. She's doing great things in the world.
Well, I do serve them, and I know what they went through.
Yeah.
I know what I know it all. I lived it. I lived it for 6 years on almost that medication. And so I think, one, that really helps. But I also I could be an advocate, because a lot of them need an advocate. And just, I mean, there's a whole lot of tools other than taking pills, and pills mask the symptoms, and they also create the same symptoms you're masking. There is no medication to stop the disease. The best bet is neuroplasticity. And again, we're given a body that's just begging for us to take care of it.
Yeah.
And I don't care whether you have Parkinson's, whether you have RA, whether you have asthma. You know, I have severe osteoarthritis. I had an accident in the gym, equipment broke, and I'm pretty much from head to toe had to have, I mean, I went slamming into metal plates, hit my head twice, my back, my hip. So they x-rayed me. I had a concussion from head to toe. And they're coming back saying, no breaks, but lady, do you have any idea how bad you are? And I'm like, shh, don't tell me, you know, because we're not even going to go there. I realize that I have damaged joints. I have this. I realize my head's barely holding on to, you know, attached to my neck, but my body doesn't know it, because I just keep, you know, I take care of myself and I keep building muscle and I keep pushing through, and I have strong muscle supporting my bones. And I'm not, I don't have pain from any, I don't have pain from RA. I'm in remission. I don't have, you know, I couldn't open a water bottle today. So, and I have pretty bad joint on joint in my hands. So that was the challenge. When we're done with this, I'm going to go back and open that bottle one way or another. But, you know, for the most part, I live pain-free.
Yeah, you know, again, we get that goes back to being realistic about what your body is capable of doing. Your body is capable of amazing things, but sometimes it's going to get you tripped up, and it's not a reason to just fall off the edge and be like, that's it, I'm giving up hope. Just means let me rethink this and try it a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to ask you like who your ideal client base is, and then what kind of programs you offer.
So wasn't that a good question? So two, I work with women that don't have any illnesses, and I do have fitness memberships. We have live classes, and I really poured my heart and soul in this because not everybody's slated for the gym. And honestly, I built a lot of my muscle with free weights. I'm 5'3", I'm tiny, half the equipment doesn't fit me. You know, I need a phone book here, I need a phone book there. And it's a pain in the neck adjusting it. And, you know, half the time it doesn't work. I can't get my legs under it because, you know, they're built for guys. And if you're a 5'5" woman, you're fine.
Hey, I'm 5'1". I'm feeling
it. So you get it.
Yeah,
I'm 5'3" if I stand up really straight. You know, I'm really pushing it. But it doesn't work. And I happen to like free weights. So I've built a lot of mine. So I built these memberships, and they're monthly. You have monthly opportunities and yearly small groups. So you get my eye on you. It's a maximum of 12 to 15. 12 to 15 women. Live training twice a week. I just had a class this morning. I have a nighttime and a day, and then I have replays, and then I have master classes. I have live question and answer, and then I'll post recipes. But my goal was really for health, to build strength and muscle. And most of us, myself included, our doctors tell you don't need to go to the gym. You know, do the treadmill and you're fine. And the truth is, we need muscle. We need it more than anything. Because when I was laid up, you know, I have no muscle to roll over, and it goes really quick. I know a gentleman who is really built. He's a cancer survivor. He's just 60. He got hit with it again about a year ago. He was laid up in the hospital for 45 days. And when I saw him, he said, all I can say is I'm glad I was in the gym. I'm glad I was ripped as I was, because he lost it in 45 days. And here he's 60. So that's important. And that's my goal. I train slow. I train different than a lot of people. I do a lot of eccentric, concentric. We go slow. A lot of people are thinking, you know, but I'm sorry, this is not lifting weights. We take time under tension. We go really slow. They're sore as heck. And, you know, they're already building muscle. So that's one group that I do. I have a lot of people with Parkinson's that are in there. You wouldn't know it. I don't say who they are. And I'm going to say most everybody in the group can't even guess. And they're champions. I can watch them and I see, oh, their medicine hasn't kicked in and they're just pushing forward. But, you know, my approach for Parkinson's is restoration. We are restoring your health. So I do well with people with Parkinson's. I work with some men. I do better with women. And, you know, I've had to give a lot of thought to it. And probably one of the reasons, because for Parkinson's, the age group is closer to mine. It's a different time period. So hearing me tell them, you know, cereal's not on the menu today. You know, that's not going to help move the needle and get you healing. It's like hearing it from your, you know, your wife. You should be eating cereal. So, and, you know, I get a little resistance and it's really been hard for me. I'm from up north. So I'm a little bit more of the school. I have to work on being tactful. Like, okay, you just can't have cereal. This is not a meal, you know, and I need to find a tactful way. So, you know, that's been a challenge, but I do work with men. My real wheelhouse is working with women. Most of the women that I work with are in their late 50s, early 60s. When I was diagnosed, you know, it's a man's disease, and there are so many women, it just blows my mind. I do better. I don't do well with somebody who's going to say to me, I usually say, I'd love to, but I can't help you. When I get, okay, so once I get cured, can I start eating what I want to eat? I'm like, I'm sorry, this doesn't work like this. One, there's no promises. I don't consider myself cured. I consider myself in remission. I have Parkinson's related dystonia. And if I don't keep my fat high, the dystonia can return. And, you know, so I watch it. I'm not, for one, you know, I can, you know, Mother's Day, Christmas, have something that's not what I would deem as healthy in my nutritious food. You know, I can have a piece of pie, have some stuffing, you know, whatever that. And then I go back to it because I know that if I go back to what I'm doing, I'm back to getting sick. But there is no, you go back to what you're doing. And that usually tells me somebody wants a quick fix and they're not. So it's hard to recover because you're going against the grain. You're going against where you're at. You're required to do hard things and things that you don't want to do. You know, I listen to some podcasts. So I do well with people that, and I do well with people that are open to, how I want to say this. So I work with people that are Catholic. I just recently converted. I work with people that aren't Catholic. I work with people that have never been baptized and aren't necessarily want to believe in God. They're sure as heck believing in God now, you know, because they're seeing miracles in their life. And there's something about realizing that, you know, and when we're at our worst, sometimes that's where we're like, you know, I mean, who else? You got to go to somebody to ask for some help, because we're not getting it on our own. So, you know, I work well with people that, and I'm very respectful, but that at least are willing to believe that they've been blessed with a body that can heal. I think if you don't believe that or can't get there, it's pretty hard for the rest to fall in place. And sometimes we just need a little window. I have people that are a couple years in that you really, I mean, I can spot it a mile away, but it can be probably the average person isn't going to tell. And I have people 10 and 11 years that they're either wrestling with tremors or they have severe dyskinesia. They're all over the place. And I work with the full range. You know, they're just willing to they've got to fight in them. And I'm working with a world champion bodybuilder, a world champion triathlete. So here I'm going to tell you something interesting. Somebody by your own right is an elite athlete. Every single person that I'm working with, we all have one common thread. We're A personalities, and we push ourselves beyond our limits. Every single one, whether it's work, whether it's fitness, or whether it's something else, we have some point in our lives pushed us past the point of driving. You know, we're just relentless. And I find that a really interesting thread. So a lot of people I have to work with, okay, you got to back off a little bit.
Oh, yeah, setting some limits. That's an important part
because
too.
for Parkinson's, there's a wheel, there's a place where not enough will not build neuroplasticity, and too much creates high cortisol and works against you, and we want dopamine stability. So there's that range where we want to be, and often my goal is no, you can't go 110%. You know, I have some people that walk some miles, like, I mean, really, that's your pace? Like, blows my mind how fast they are walking. And it's like, we got to tone it down.
Yeah.
So that's, and I have to say, probably when it comes down to, it's just people who are willing to do hard things. And, you know, we live in a society where that's avoided.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson I've learned the hard way too. Being in the comfort zone's not the place to be. You got to put yourself out there just a little bit to be able to grow.
Yeah.
So, as always, Mimi, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. And I want everybody who is listening or watching to know that, you know, this just 10 more steps concept that Mimi has, and the programming that she's offering. Yes, it's rooted in her own experience, but she did the work. Very well trained, very highly qualified. I totally recommend, if you're looking for someone to work with, I totally recommend you check her out and look at what she has to offer, because this is a big thing. And you know, something that goes against what perhaps your doctors are telling you, but again, you might find yourself at this point where it's like, what do I have to lose? Well, you don't have anything to lose. Go find Mimi. She's going to help you out.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, any last things you want to get out to the people?
No, I don't think so. I think
you covered a lot.
I know. I said a lot. You know, I guess if I were to say something, it's really, I guess I would say a lot of people will hear the podcast, but they don't listen. So it's like, okay, so what kind of beef are you eating? I'm like, this is a story that has way more to do about that, and what time I eat it. And I mean, really, I mean, there's so much there, that there's so much there, and really, so much is rooted in those 10 steps. You know, people like, I can only take one. Well, then take it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot when we do that. There's a lot that happens. If I hadn't taken, I'd be dead.
Right. And if you don't
there's
push
no
yourself,
doubt. There's no doubt.
Just a little bit. You don't have to push yourself hard. Just that little bit, just to remind yourself that you're still here.
Yeah.
You're still kicking.
Do it every day, and do it every day.
And do it every day. Yeah. I love that. You know what? This was a great place to stop, but I do have a question for you, because you know, the film that I'm in just came out. I'm wondering about the film that you're in. Do you have any updates about it?
So it's been released. I'm not in it.
Oh.
I'm not. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm in it with the blurb. I think they decided it was too big of a story, and that's okay, because some exciting things are in the process.
Oh, I love to hear that.
Some exciting things are in the process. With a whole difference. You know, it's another one of those. When you're quiet, something comes to you, and you sort of just put it out there, and from a whole different angle.
Oh, wow.
And again, you know, you've got to trust. Okay, this door closes. Here's another door, And my story is so much more than what I ate. That was one of the tools God used to heal me, but there's so much more to it. And God willing, I'll have a couple opportunities and a couple vehicles in order to share it.
Well, I cannot wait to see what's on the horizon for you. You just kind of opened up, kind of like, here I am, guide me, and things just happened and fall into place. And in the process of that, you've been able to help so many, and it's just been a beautiful story to watch unfold. And I can't wait to see what happens in the future. And I hope this business is fruitful and you help so many people, and you just continue to advocate, because you're changing the world.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm very blessed.
Yeah. So thank you again for joining us. On behalf of Mimi Morgan, I'm Robin Dobbins. Thanks for hearing our Keto biography. Bye.